I didn't find out about my son Daniel's wedding from him. I found out from a photo posted by his wife Emily. White dress, champagne, her entire family smiling behind them. The caption said, "Perfect day with the people who matter most." I wasn't in a single picture, not even mentioned. For 3 years, I had been paying half their rent in Dallas. I bought the couch they were sitting on. I paid for that dress she was wearing. I even sent her money for wedding expenses, thinking I'd be there to watch my only son say his vows. That night, I stared at my phone for an hour before calling him. He didn't answer. She did. And in the calmest voice I've ever heard, Emily said, "Oh, we kept it small. We only invited people who were really part of our lives." I didn't cry. I just looked around my empty living room at everything I had given them. And for the first time in years, something inside me went completely still. Because a week later, when they called me begging for rent money, I finally understood what I should have done a long time ago. I didn't find out about my son Daniel's wedding from him. I found out from a photo posted by his wife Emily. White dress, champagne, her entire family smiling behind them. The caption said, "Perfect day with the people who matter most." I wasn't in a single picture, not even mentioned. For 3 years, I had been paying half their rent in Dallas. I bought the couch they were sitting on. I paid for that dress she was wearing. I even sent her money for wedding expenses, thinking I'd be there to watch my only son say his vows. That night, I stared at my phone for an hour before calling him. He didn't answer. She did. And in the calmest voice I've ever heard, Emily said, "Oh, we kept it small. We only invited people who were really part of our lives." I didn't cry. I just looked around my empty living room at everything I had given them. And for the first time in years, something inside me went completely still. Because a week later, when they called me begging for rent money, I finally understood what I should have done a long time ago. A week later, my phone rang again. It was Daniel. This time, his voice wasn't distant. It was tight, anxious. "Mom, hey, quick thing. We're a little short this month. Rent's due tomorrow, and I thought maybe you could help, like you always do." I didn't say anything for a second. I just let the silence sit there, heavy enough for both of us to feel it. On the other end, he cleared his throat. "Mom, you there?" And that's when I said something I had never said to him before. Daniel didn't ask how I was. He didn't mention the wedding. He didn't even pretend to care. He just called when he needed money. And for the first time, I heard it clearly, not as my son asking for help, but as a grown man expecting access to my bank account. "Daniel," I said slowly, "didn't Emily say you only invite people who are part of your life?" There was a pause, longer this time, confused. "Yo, what does that have to do with anything?" "Everything," I replied, "because I've been thinking, and I don't think I should keep paying for a life I'm not part of." His tone changed, instantly. "Wait, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm done. No more transfers, no more emergency help, no more pretending this is love when it's just money." He let out a sharp breath. "Mom, you can't just do that. We have bills. We counted on you." And that word, counted, hit harder than anything else. Not loved, not appreciated, counted. Like I was a guaranteed payment, like I was automatic. I closed my eyes for a moment, remembering every check, every grocery run, every time I told myself, this is what mothers do. Then I opened them again and said calmly, "You should have thought about that before deciding I wasn't important enough to be at your wedding." He tried to backtrack instantly. "Mom, come on, it wasn't like that. Emily just wanted something small. It got out of hand. You know how weddings are." But I had already seen the photos, the speeches, the smiling faces, the people who were apparently more important than me. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just said, "Daniel, I hope you figure it out." And then I hung up. He called back 3 times. I didn't answer. The next day, Emily texted me paragraphs, apologies, excuses, promises to make it right, dinner invitations, sudden affection that hadn't existed in years. I read every word and felt nothing, because for the first time, I wasn't reacting emotionally. I was seeing clearly. They didn't miss me. They missed what I provided. 2 weeks later, I heard from a mutual acquaintance that they had to downsize their apartment. Emily started working, Daniel picked up extra shifts. Life didn't fall apart. They just had to live it themselves. Sometimes, late at night, I think about the version of me who would have rushed to fix everything, who would have sent the money and convinced herself that being needed meant being loved. But that woman is gone now, replaced by someone who finally understands the difference between the two. My name is Laura, and I'm 68 years old, and for the first time in my life, I stopped trying to earn my place in my own family. And you tell me, if you were in my place, would you have sent the money again or walked away like I did? The silence after I stopped sending money didn't last long. It never does when people are used to getting something from you without question. 3 days after that call, Daniel showed up at my door, unannounced. I knew it was him before I even checked the camera because no one else knocked like that. Fast, impatient, like the door owed him something. I opened it slowly, and for a second I saw the boy I raised standing there. Same face, same eyes. But there was something else now, something sharper, something entitled. "Mom, we need to talk," he said, pushing past me before I could answer, like he still had the right to walk into my house like nothing had changed. I closed the door behind him and didn't move toward the kitchen, didn't offer coffee, didn't play the role I had been playing for years. He noticed that immediately. His eyes scanned the room like he was trying to understand what felt different. "You're really serious about this, aren't you?" he asked, his voice lower now, not angry yet, just uncertain. I folded my arms and leaned slightly against the wall. I've never been more serious in my life. He let out a small laugh, but there was no humor in it. "You're overreacting, Mom. It was just a wedding. You're going to throw away your relationship with your own son over one day?" "One day," I repeated quietly. "One day that I paid for. One day you didn't want me at. One day that showed me exactly where I stand." He shook his head like I was the unreasonable one. "Emily didn't mean it like that, you know. How she talks. She gets nervous. She says things wrong. But you know we love you." "Love?" I said the word slowly, like I was testing it for the first time in years. "Love doesn't disappear when there's no money involved." Daniel's jaw tightened. "That's not fair. You're twisting things. We're struggling right now. You know how expensive everything is. Rent, groceries, the car payment. You've always helped us. That's just how things are between us." "No," I corrected him. "That's how things were, and it only worked because I allowed it." He took a step closer, lowering his voice like he was trying to calm me down, like I was the problem. "Listen, we already made plans based on your support. We signed a lease. We have obligations. You can't just cut us off like this overnight." And there it was again. Not "Mom, are you okay?" Not "Mom, I'm sorry." Just numbers, responsibilities, expectations tied to my wallet. I looked at him for a long second, and something inside me settled even deeper than before. "I'm not responsible for the life you built assuming I would fund it." His expression shifted then, irritation turning into something colder. "So that's it. You're just done. You're going to sit here in this house alone while we figure things out without you." "Yes," I said simply, and the calm in my voice seemed to bother him more than anything else. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, like he was about to prove something. "Fine," he muttered. "If that's how you want to do this, we'll figure something else out, but don't expect things to stay the same after this." I didn't respond. I just watched him, because for the first time, I wasn't afraid of losing him. I had already lost him a long time ago. I just hadn't admitted it yet. He turned and walked toward the door, stopping just long enough to look back at me with something between anger and disbelief. "You're making a mistake, Mom. You're going to regret this when you need us." I almost smiled at that, not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. "I already needed you," I said quietly. "You just weren't there." He didn't have an answer for that. He left, slamming the door behind him hard, enough to shake the frame, and for a moment the house was silent again. But it wasn't the same silence as before. This one felt heavier, like something had shifted permanently. 2 days later, Emily called from a different number. I almost didn't pick up, but something told me to answer. "Hello?" Her voice came, soft, careful, like she was stepping onto thin ice. "Hi, Laura. I know you don't want to talk to me, but please, just listen for a second." I didn't say anything. I just waited. "We're in a really difficult position right now," she continued. "The rent is overdue. Daniel's picking up extra shifts, but it's not enough. And I know you're upset about the wedding, and I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings." If I hurt your feelings? The way she said it, like it was a small misunderstanding, not a complete erasure of my place in their lives. I closed my eyes for a second. "Emily," I said, "when was the last time you called me without needing something?" There was a pause. "I'm calling now," she said quickly. "That's not what I asked," I replied. Another pause, longer this time. "We just thought you understood how things were," she finally admitted. "We're family. We help each other." "No," I said calmly. "You help yourselves, and you expect me to make it possible." Her tone changed slightly, the softness cracking into frustration. "We relied on you, Laura. You can't just decide overnight that you're done. That's not how this works." I let out a slow breath. "Actually, it is," I said, and then I hung up before she could respond. That night, I sat in my living room, the same room I had filled with things for them, and for the first time, it didn't feel empty. It felt like mine again. But something told me this wasn't over. People who feel entitled don't just walk away, they push harder. And I was right, because the next morning when I checked my phone, there was a message from Daniel that made my stomach drop. "Mom, we need to handle this properly. We've spoken to someone, and if you're not willing to cooperate, we're going to have to take legal steps to protect what's fair." And as I stared at that message, I realized this was never just about money for them. It was about control, and they weren't ready to let go of it yet. I read that message 3 times before putting my phone down, because there it was, clear as daylight. Not concern, not love, not even anger. Just control dressed up as something legal and reasonable. For a moment, my hands felt cold, but not from fear, from clarity, because now there was no confusion left about who they were or what this had become. 2 days later, a letter arrived at my door, official envelope, firm language. Inside, it stated that Daniel was seeking legal authority to assist in managing my financial decisions due to sudden behavioral changes. I actually laughed out loud, sitting alone at my kitchen table, because after everything, after the wedding, after the calls, after the entitlement, this was their next move? To try to take everything by force? What they could no longer get by guilt? I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I made one call. Mr. Harrison, the attorney who had handled my husband's estate years ago. His voice was calm, steady, like nothing surprised him anymore. "Laura," he said after listening carefully, "this is more common than you think. Adult children trying to claim incapacity when financial support stops. It's not about your well-being, it's about access to your assets." His words didn't shock me. They confirmed what I already knew. We spent the next 2 hours going through my records, every transfer, every check, every expense documented, clean, precise, undeniable. When we added it all together, the numbers sat there on the page, heavier than anything else. $34,200 in just under 3 years. I stared at it, not because I regretted it, but because it finally showed me the truth in numbers. This wasn't help, this was a system, and I had been the one keeping it running. Mr. Harrison looked at me and said softly, "You understand what they're doing, right? They're trying to prove you're not capable so they can legally step in." I nodded. "I understand, and we're going to stop it." He filed the response the same day, requesting a full evaluation and documentation review. A week later, I sat in a quiet office across from a licensed evaluator, answering questions about my memory, my finances, my daily routine, simple things, things I had managed on my own for decades. When it was over, she closed her folder and smiled gently. Laura, there is absolutely no indication that you're incapable of managing your life. In fact, you're exceptionally organized for someone your age. I thanked her and walked out, feeling lighter than I had in years, not because I needed her validation, but because I knew what it meant for what was coming. The hearing was scheduled 2 weeks later. I wore the same navy dress I had planned to wear to Daniel's wedding. It felt appropriate in a way, like I was finally showing up for something that actually mattered. When I walked into that room, Daniel was already there, sitting beside Emily, both of them avoiding my eyes until the last second. When he finally looked at me, not with warmth, not with guilt, but with calculation, like he was trying to measure how this would end. Their lawyer spoke first, calm, confident, painting a picture of concern, sudden withdrawal, unusual decisions, isolation, influence from outsiders. Every word carefully chosen to make my independence sound like instability. When it was our turn, Mr. Harrison didn't raise his voice, he didn't dramatize anything, he simply presented facts, documented transfers, consistent financial behavior, years of independent living, and then the evaluation report. Clear, direct, undeniable. Mentally competent, fully capable, no evidence of impairment. The room went quiet in a way that felt final. When the judge looked up and spoke, Mrs. Carter is clearly capable of managing her own affairs. There is no legal basis for this request. The petition is denied. Just like that, it was over. No dramatic moment, no shouting, no apology, just a clean decision based on truth. I stood up slowly, gathering my things, and for a second I felt Daniel's eyes on me again. This time there was something different there. Maybe frustration, maybe disbelief, maybe the first hint that he had gone too far. He opened his mouth like he was about to say something, but I didn't wait to hear it. I had spent too many years waiting for words that never came. I walked out of that room without looking back. 3 months later, I sold the house, not because I had to, but because I wanted a fresh start. I moved into a smaller place, closer to the city, somewhere quiet, somewhere mine. I traveled for the first time in years. I bought things without calculating who else might need that money. I started painting again, something I had given up without even realizing it. Sometimes I hear about them through other people, how they had to adjust, how Emily found a job, how Daniel started working longer hours, how life didn't collapse, it just became theirs to carry. And sometimes, late at night, I think about that photo, the one I wasn't in, the one that started everything, and I realize something now. They were right. I wasn't part of that life anymore, and for the first time, that doesn't hurt. It feels like freedom. My name is Laura Carter. I'm 68 years old, and I finally learned that love isn't something you prove by giving everything away. And if you were sitting where I was that day when they asked for money again, would you have sent it, or would you have walked away too?